Welcome, everyone, to A Rural Music Teacher, a podcast for music teachers who have chosen to go off the beaten path.
I'm your host, Katie Oglesby.
And I'm your other host, André Wilkins.
This is a podcast where we strive to educate, elevate, and encourage rural music teachers of all levels in their career in the pursuit of a fulfilling and exciting career of music education.
We have several values we'd like to promote when doing this podcast. Number one is going to be staying positive. Being in rural areas all over the country, it's easy to get bogged down in some negativity. So we are striving to be a solution-based, positive podcast. We'd like to learn from each other's experiences and learn from their strengths and make sure that we have a safe space to be vulnerable with our struggles and figure out solutions together. And Katie, what is this not a place for?
We really want to make sure that we are sharing our struggles and learning from them in a positive way, helping each other out. So this is not a place for us to throw each other under the bus, judge others based off of what they're struggling on or what their program looks like. And this is not a place for our egos to become the main character.
That'll be tough for me.
Yeah, good luck.
All right, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where'd you grow up? What were your musical beginnings? What was your music education like? Where'd you go to college? Where are you currently teaching?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I grew up moving around a whole lot until we settled in Fort Collins when I was middle school age. So I grew up in the Poudre School District system. I graduated high school in 2015 and went to Colorado State University. Go Rams. I loved my time at CSU. I was in the marching band and in clarinet choirs. I got to go to the International Clarinet Conference, which was pretty cool when I was in Kansas. And all the bands they have at CSU. It was a great time. I also got to, I knew at a young age that I wanted to be in music education, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But I got to be part of CSU's middle school outreach ensemble starting when I was in high school, which was great. I got to go and work with the music education students at CSU and work with middle school kids and really learn how to teach from a young age. And so I was involved with that all the way until my student teaching. I student taught in the Fort Collins area in Windsor with Paul Maley, and then in Fort Collins with Charlotte Boyce, and they're wonderful humans. And then I graduated CSU in 2019, and it's kind of funny. It was my first job interview. The first job that I really saw. I had just driven through Salida once on like a road trip with my parents, and I really liked the town. My dad was like, keep this in mind, you could work here one day. And so the March of my student teaching semester, I went online and looked at Salida's job postings, and it was like, boom, middle school band and choir. That's exactly what I wanted. So I went on and sent my application in. Like a week later, I got called for an interview, and it was my first job interview. A couple days later, got offered the job, and I'm so lucky that I did, and I took it right away because I knew I wanted to move into the mountains and have this kind of experience working out in the mountains. And I've been working in Salida ever since 2019. This is my first teaching job. I'm in my 5th year right now, and I feel really lucky and blessed to be where I am right now. I've learned a lot in these 5 years. Andre, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I grew up on the East Coast in eastern Pennsylvania. I went to the same school district, the Bangor area school district, all my life. Mr. Wrestler was my beginning band teacher, and I learned to play alto sax because my older sister, learned to play alto sax, and I heard the song Tequila, and I had to learn how to play sax. But I very vividly remember going through the instrument choosing process and being really worried that the saxophone that I brought to the band director would be good enough, because we had to bring our instruments, and Mr. Wrestler had to either approve or not approve whether or not it was going to be a worthy instrument, which would be awesome if we could do now. But we have some barriers in our rural area that keep us from.
Clarinet.
Yeah. But then Mr. Wrestler taught me how to play saxophone, and it was awesome. And when I got to middle school, I switched over to tenor and joined the jazz band. And I also started singing in choir in middle school. And when I got to high school, I was very active soccer player and saxophonist and vocalist, and I did a ton of musical theater. And I chose to move out west to be a snowboard bum. I wanted to move to Colorado and be a big snowboarder. And so I went to the Institute of Higher Learning, formerly known as Western State College, which is currently known as Western Colorado University. And I was a history major to start off. And after a semester of not having music in my life, I was like, no, why am I choosing to be I wanted to be a history teacher and soccer coach. And looking back at that version of myself and what that would have turned into, that doesn't fit at all. So I switched to music. I had a great mentor, Dr. John Wacker, who's our director of bands at Western, and he set me up with some student teaching at Lewis Palmer High School with Mike Mazingo and George Douthat, and I did my student teaching in both vocal and instrumental music. And I started my career on the western slope of Colorado in a small town of 800 called Ouray. And that was a middle school and high school combined band, choir, theater job. And I did that for a few years. And then I came over to Salida and was the band director for middle school and high school for a number of years. And we expanded our high school offerings to include some college classes. Jazz band became during the school day, and we had a middle school jazz band. And I took over the choir program and the theater program, and that gave us the opportunity to hire a middle school teacher, and that was Katie. And did not realize that was your first job interview. That's impressive.
I was very nervous.
You killed it, and it was an easy choice. And then I got my master's degree from Adams State University, and in music education with an emphasis in wind conducting. And now we're just a couple rural music teachers bringing music to the sticks. Mm-hmm. Katie, why did you go into music education?
That's a great question. I have always found that music was my place when I felt like, the little weirdo in middle school. Mm-hmm. Music was my safe place. My parents were really worried about me before I got into band because I tried sports, didn't like them. That was not my thing. They were like, oh no, she needs to find her thing. And then I picked up a clarinet, and it was my thing, I just found all my friends through that. I was always my safe place in school. So I knew from probably early high school that I wanted to go into music. And the more that I've reflected on it, it's because I want to take my passion, which is music, playing in band, playing with other people, and use that passion to make the world a better place. I love people too, and I want to see my impact on the world, and I feel like us as educators, we're very lucky that we get to see our impact every day, whether that be, it's good, bad, and ugly sometimes, right? But it's, we get to see that, and it's really, really cool that we do. What about you, André?
When I was in 8th grade, I became a snowboard instructor, and it was weird. Like, I was like a 14, 15-year-old kid in late middle school, early high school, and I was teaching people the same age as me and older, and it was a very rewarding feeling to see somebody not be able to do something and then learn how to do it, and then you would see them a couple weeks later, and they would be going down the bunny slope without falling, and I thought, oh my gosh, I want to be a teacher. Both my parents were teachers. My mom and dad. My sister is a Spanish teacher in New Jersey, and so this relationship with people where you get to teach and you get to learn and be a lifelong learner was something that was really attractive to me. Mm-hmm. And deciding that I wanted to go to college to be a teacher, I then looked at the people that were in my life and said, who do I want to be like? And I remember very vividly talking to my dad, who kind of floated the idea of the performing arts as a career, saying, oh, I could never be Mr. Domenico or Mr. Payne, my choir and band director in high school. They are just the best, and there's no way I could ever be that. And luckily, when I got to college and I had mentors and professors that explained to me like the next step after high school isn't being a successful music teacher. The next step is learning to be a music teacher. Then once you become a music teacher, then you start learning how to be a successful music teacher after a lot of trial and error.
That's a lot of years in there.
Yeah, and then choosing to go back for my master's degree, you know, it became clear I wasn't going to go into administration. I didn't want to be a principal. I didn't want to be a guidance counselor. I didn't want to get out of teaching and do something totally different. So being the best possible music educator I could be is the goal.
So that brings me to something else. We have both in our careers had opportunities where we could have chosen to do something else, or to move to Denver, to move to the Springs, and not teach rurally. What makes you choose to stay and teach in a rural community?
I student taught in the Colorado Springs area, and I saw what the high-powered music programs in Colorado look like. And I saw my life being very career-centric. It's a weird way to put it because it's very much the center of my life right now.
Yeah.
But I didn't move to Colorado to live in the city. I moved to Colorado to live in the mountains and to ski and snowboard and fly fish and do all the things that I moved out here to do. And I just wasn't doing it living on the I-25 corridor. And the job openings in 2009 time frame, you weren't getting a job at a Lewis Palmer or Cheyenne Mountain as a first-year teacher. You had to go put your time in on the western slope or out on the eastern plains, which was just fine with me. So ending up in Uray, I had my choice of any ensemble I wanted to teach. I had a ton of freedom to choose what kind of music program I wanted to offer students. And that was really neat to kind of start building something with the kids as what did you want it to be? And part of one of the things that I really enjoy about rural teaching, I discovered when I came to Salida, is you get to be their main channel for anything culture, anything music, anything just outside of our town. And being somebody that grew up on the East Coast, I really found it rewarding helping students after they graduated, finding placement in the world outside our, to quote Beauty and the Beast, our small provincial town. So that was really rewarding that I get to see such a significant impact on our students and the community. I mean, when the jazz band plays in town or we put on a concert together and you have 300 people in the town of 5,000 there, that's a unique experience for the community too. How about you, Katie? Why did you stick around?
Yeah, so like I mentioned a little bit before, I was drawn to Salida kind of on a whim, but because I always had an idea of getting out of college and experiencing something different. I grew up on the Front Range. I grew up in Fort Collins, and I loved it. I loved the experience I got. But I just wanted something different. I love hiking, and I love being in the mountains, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come out and have a little adventure. And at first I thought, okay, I'll, the classic first-year teacher thing. I'll give it 3 years, and then I'll decide what I want to do. Well, those 3 years came and went, and I wanted to stay. I still loved life in the mountains. One thing I love about being a rural music teacher, which, again, it is funny saying this while doing a podcast about our careers, but we don't just have to be a music teacher. Like, I get to live a full life that's outside of my career. I put everything I have into my job, and then I still get a 3-day weekend where I get to go out and be in the mountains and be with my dogs and go to the hot springs and all of these things that drew me to the place in the first place, right? So that's a huge draw for me, this work-life balance, and it makes me feel healthier, and it makes it feel like this is a career I could have for most of my life. I don't feel as burnt out as maybe I would if I didn't have all these amazing natural things. Also, what you mentioned about the community, I love feeling and seeing the part that I play in my community. It comes with its good and its bad, but I can never go anywhere in town without seeing a kid. Today I went to Walmart just to pick up something. Thank you. And I ran into 2 students, and one of the students that I ran into was like, "Did you go to this restaurant last night?" I see my kids everywhere, and I actually love that. I love that we get to be people in our community that our students notice. I love that we're providing a service and an art to our community. And I love the kind of control we have over our programs here.
Yeah.
We get, honestly, if something's not working in our program, we can decide what classes we offer. I'm not sure, again, I haven't worked in another district, but I don't think every district you can choose, right? Mm-hmm. I saw that we didn't have any musical theater in middle school, and I was able to add that to my choral program, and that's helped, and stuff like that. So there's a level of kind of control and creativity you can have in these programs, which is really rewarding professionally, that I enjoy as well.
It's really fun having the autonomy to make a choice and say, here's a need we see in our program. And I love our vertical team meetings where we get to deep dive in and see what we're missing and go from there. I mean, obviously, we touched on some difficulty things and we joked a little bit, but for somebody that's never taught or is about to teach or just started teaching, what are some difficulties and challenges that you in your career here have faced and solutions that you've found to them?
Yeah. There are plenty of difficulties that you face, I'm sure, in all different types of situations. There are rural-specific difficulties we face, and band-specific. Like, we are 2 hours away from the nearest repair shop. I can't just say, take it to the repair shop and it'll get fixed the next day, you know? Mm-hmm. Either I've had to learn how to fix a lot of instruments, or, you know, we have to make a drive 2 hours to Pueblo to get our instruments fixed.
Yeah.
So that has been a huge challenge for me. I feel like I found solutions here and there, learning more instrument repair. If I can't fix something, talking to you, and then talking to the repair people. A lot of the times, some of our repair shop people are wonderful, and they have family who are here, or they want to come up to Salida, and they'll grab an instrument, or, you know, they'll come up here and grab something, and then I'll go pick it up, you know. So sometimes I can share that. It's just like building those connections that has really helped me, at least with the instrument repair part. What's a challenge you have faced?
Right off the bat, when we outlined how we want to do this, the 2 things that came to me was moving here single with no friends.
Yeah.
And people were quick to adopt me. Mm-hmm. And like, it's tough seeing students out around town. My wife and I, we've been together for 10 years now. She was a newspaper reporter in town, and she thought like I was married, and turns out I wasn't. And she was like, oh, kind of not surprised. But we went out on dates when we first met each other, and it was like, on one side I'm having a conversation, it's a mini parent-teacher conference, and she's on the other side trying to get a story for the newspaper or trying to drum up business for a photography business. So like when we were going out, it was super difficult to make time for ourselves because we play such prominent roles in our community.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it's really tough to find experts in not just the instruments that kids play that are outside my expertise, but also finding quality vocalists, quality musicians. I play in a ton of different ensemble type things throughout my time here in Salida, where I played in a band that reenacted the Last Waltz, and that was a whole different dynamic, playing with people that, you know, followed the Grateful Dead for 20 years, and then doing the concert series that we do for Salida Aspen Concert Series, where we're expected to play at the professional level.
Exactly.
And trying to find a French horn player that could play and model a good sound for my students.
Mm-hmm. We don't really have people for every instrument that can be a private lessons teacher, right? Sometimes we are the only private lessons teacher, And I'm not that great at French horn. I'm still learning, right?
No, it's extremely difficult to get kids competitive on non-primary instruments. So, like, I had a student make All-State on trumpet, and she listens to everybody she could possibly listen to try and model good trumpet sound. I can help with notes and rhythms and academically tell her what to do, but as a saxophonist, I don't know, like, you have 3 valves, do something with them. So that's my biggest challenge, and being able to find online sources. When I started my career in '09, it was YouTube wasn't quite what it is now, so it was super difficult to find. I was like burning CDs for kids, and they'd be like, "Listen to this," and like finding DVDs of André Bocelli concerts, and be like, "This is what a lyric baritone sounds like," and so those are my main challenges that come.
Yeah. Living rurally, I've heard from not just us, but from our friends who also teach rurally, right? It's the distance. It can be the feeling of isolation that comes with that distance sometimes. And I feel like we've all gotten through it by finding mentors, by finding colleagues and friends who either can empathize or are facing something similar to you. Like having André as a friend and a colleague and a mentor has helped me through my first 5 years, and helped me navigating not just teaching rurally, but teaching in general. And I think that kind of connection with other music teachers is super important.
Absolutely. And just to return the compliment, having year 15, you're in year 5, and just having somebody that's able to think of different solutions than what was taught to me. I'm hitting that second half of my career, and it's really hearing about composers that I've never heard of, and I get to represent with my ensembles playing. It's really awesome, and thanks for the fresh perspective you bring. And but I think you're absolutely right. My mentors in grad school, and we see other teachers doing it elsewhere in Colorado, and just being awesome. We have some great colleagues and friends that are winning state marching band competitions. Their choirs performing at CMEA, and it's nice to have them. And I don't want to I want people to get a chance to find their own, and these will be people that will be guests on the podcast. So I don't
But
give too much away.
This is kind of a reason why we want to have this podcast, right? Because we know what it feels like to feel isolated and go through the struggles of our career. We all face them. And it's nice to be able to talk to them, talk to other people about them, and figure out our solutions and hear how other people have experienced their career. It helps us feel like we're not so alone, right? And it can only help us be better teachers and better for our students.
I mean, every student deserves a quality music education experience, and they shouldn't be punished because they live someplace that's far away from a repair shop or a premier performing venue. So I really like the value that we hold that every student deserves a quality music experience, and it's super important because I always thought of this as like this was going to be a stepping stone job till I get the big job. And I've really lost that. I want to raise my daughter here. She's 4 years old, and I want Katie to be her music teacher, and I want her to grow up in a place that I love.
This can be the big job, right?
Absolutely.
You can have the big job in Denver. You can have the big job in Moffett. You can have it here in Salida, right? It is what you make it, and out here we get to have a wonderful career and also have a full life. And we're just really excited to share our passion for living and working rurally. It's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Let's close this out, and we're going to try and establish some norms with how we close out podcasts. So if you listen and watch this and you end up being a guest, be prepared for these questions. Katie, what was your favorite musical moment as a teacher, and what was your favorite musical moment as a student?
Okay. I'll start with my musical moment as a student, and bear with me because it's kind of a long story, but it's good. It's it has a lot of layers. I love moments that tie in. It makes it's a click moment, your life makes sense, right? All of your passions are coming together. When I was young, I lived in Argentina and I learned Spanish. And I minored in Spanish. I love Spain. In other Spanish-speaking countries, I just think it's a beautiful language. And language and music learning go kind of hand in hand. Music is a universal language.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, when I was in high school, my band director, Scott Schlepp, he programmed a piece about the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. And it was just one of the most remarkable pieces I've gotten to play. It was beautiful. We learned all about the cathedral, all about Spain. Well, at that moment, I was in, AP Spanish, geeking out on Spanish too. So it was just like a mix of everything. We performed it for contests and everything. It went great. It was just a wonderful, enriching musical opportunity for me. The last thing we played my senior year, it was like the last day seniors were in class. He always let the seniors choose what their last song was going to be in band. And we all chose that song, the Sagrada Familia. And we performed it and I was crying by the end, classic senior moment, right? Everything's about me. But it was just so beautiful and impactful, and that stayed with me. I always listen to the piece still today. And then when I was in college, I got to actually go study abroad in Spain, and I went to Barcelona, and I got to see the Sagrada Familia. And honestly, I don't think I would have had such a passion for any of that without that music. And so that's just been such an impactful moment for me as a student, also as a lifelong musician. As a teacher, I have really loved in these 5 years watching little goofballs from middle school grow up to be juniors and seniors in high school now. It feels weird. I mean, I'm sure I'll feel even weirder when I'm in year 15 of teaching. I'm like, those kids are adults. But André invited me to conduct a piece, Rowan Tree, by Randall Standridge, for his last concert in December, and I conducted it for the concert band, and it was just a really beautiful moment. They played really well, they sounded lovely, and I was looking out at the band, and as I was conducting, and I saw these kids that I had taught since they were 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, so on, and now they're all, getting older and playing beautiful music, and I was just so proud, and I got emotional. That was a really beautiful moment for me as a teacher, just watching kids grow up and get better, and it also made me excited to continue experiencing that as these years pass. And I get to see all those high schoolers grow up because we work so closely together, because our community's smaller. It's really neat and special, and that's a moment I'll hold dear to my heart for sure. What about you, André?
I'm gonna have to go back to 8th grade. I was in Miss Heine's after-school jazz band. I was playing tenor sax, and to me, playing tenor sax I always felt like third alto. And then I joined jazz band, and I was like, oh, I don't have to be. I am the guy. I'm the number one sax player, and I had a chance to do a solo. And the way Miss Heine had it set up was she had 2 stands on each side of the stage, and each person had their own music. And I was sharing a stand with my friend Chris Hallett, who played trumpet, and my solo music was on one side of the stand, his solo music was on the other. And I practiced this solo, and I thought I was going to just knock it out of the park, and thought it was going to be this awesome thing. Turns out I ended up choking. And unfortunately what happened is I was ready to start crying, and I grabbed the music to cover my face, and I accidentally knocked Chris's music off. So we're doing something, I'm assuming, with the 12-bar blues. I don't have the musical pedagogy that I have now in 8th grade. But it was some sort of we're going through these solo sections. So Chris got up there with his trumpet and didn't have music to play off of, and he just sat there. And I don't remember if he started crying, but to make the story better, we'll say he did. And we went through the changes, finished the song, and everybody clapped, thought it was great. And then what Miss Heine did was she stopped, and she took it back to the solo section, put our music back on the stand, and gave us a second chance to do it correct. And that moment has stuck with me and has created a lot of favorite moments as a teacher, knowing that just because we finished the song doesn't mean it's not okay to go back and give. I mean, we rehearsed it to play it right, and she gave us that opportunity. And it took a long, I was upset for years after that. And then once I became a teacher, I really understood the magic of that moment. And I mean, also in 6th grade, learning how to play the Star Wars theme, G G G C G F D D C G. I mean, that was another high one. But as a teacher, I think what you bring up, being able to see your former students do things, and at this past honor band I went to over the weekend over at Western Colorado University, one of my former students was playing flute, and she sat first chair in the concert band, and Aubrey just killed it.
Go
and,
Aubrey!
Yeah, and it was awesome, and I was so happy having this full circle moment that really was impactful in a way that I hadn't had experienced in my career before. And just as you said, there's an infinite number of favorite moments as a teacher, but that's one that is really recently being a front runner, and it just means so much to see lifelong musicians. And, Well, Katie, I think that's it. We'll do our next episode on what classes we ended up teaching that we didn't expect to be teaching, and how we found success in that.
I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I was a voice major in college, and Katie was a clarinet major, and I ended up teaching band.
And I ended up teaching choir.
So we'll talk through some of the challenges and solutions that we did to give kids the best musical experience. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this, and we're excited to continue talking more about being real music teachers.
Absolutely. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.